Welcome to Lingo Trek. It's registration already? Let's talk about pre-registration and registration day. Hey, my name is Carmen and welcome. We're going to be talking about something that can make a huge difference in how smooth your ESL program runs, which is registration day and pre-registration. You may be thinking, well, we already do a registration. That's good enough. And yes, that is totally fine. But if you're going to grow your program and you already have some returning students, then it might be a good time to have a pre-registration for those students and those who are just dying to get into your classes. And let's talk about that. Why pre-registration helps everyone. Pre-registration gives returning students a head start. They can keep their spot. And that is something that I do tell our students, like, hey, we only have so many slots. We have 15 spots. If you want to reserve yours, you need to do it on the pre-registration. They can also pay early. There might be an incentive to do it like a discount, sometimes pre-registration, or sometimes returning students will give them a $5 discount. And that way they are incentivized to register early. And also it helps skip the long lines on registration day. You can also, with returning students, ask them to pay online. So if you have a point of sale online that does credit card and debit card with your organization, boom, it's gold. Do it. That way you can focus on the students who are new. In this case, later on at registration day. The other thing with returning students, if you don't have that point of sale, maybe you can do Zelle. Zelle, the only issue with it is that it has to go from individual to individual. So a nonprofit or an organization cannot set up a Zelle account. So keep that in mind, that the funds will have to go to a personal account, and then that person has to withdraw that money and then give it to the treasury or whatnot of your organization. You can also set up a Stripe page to take payment or any other point of sale type thing. Cheddar Up is a great option that we've used in the past. It does have some fees. I think they might be a little bit higher than Stripe. And I think PayPal is around the same amount if you do a donate button on PayPal. If you're a nonprofit, then that works. If not, you can't do that. But just keep that in mind when you do the online registration, is that there will be fees. For teachers and program directors, pre-registration means that you can predict class sizes early. This is great because then you can know where to put your teachers or drop some classes. So we might be dropping our level 4 class this next semester. We've only had it running for about 2 years, and we're not really getting the student count to keep it alive. We're going to probably drop it this next semester, and then in the fall, see if we do need that level 4 class or just stick with one upper level class and alternate between level 3 and 4. You'll know which levels need more volunteers or materials. Like I said, level 4, I think we're dropping it. You can spend more time helping new students on registration day instead of juggling returning ones. This is something that you do tell the returning students, like, if you want to go over something, we have all the time in the world to talk about that on pre-registration day. But on registration day, this is more for new students. Pre-registration also helps organize your assessment testing ahead of time. And this is something that is good. You don't need it for your returning students. Your returning students, basically, you see if they did their requirements to move on, or you need to have a one-on-one chat and say, like, hey, I think you need to retake this class because of XYZ, whatever that may be. But if you have a new student who comes in on pre-registration, you can absolutely do that assessment, or know that, okay, we will have to do so many assessments on registration day. Pre-registration is a little flexible because you won't have as many people registering, but it's also a good time to talk to both returning and new students. And the assessment test for us is online. If you have it in person, maybe you just tell them, hey, you just need to come back on registration day and do your assessment. But ours is online, and then we look at the numbers, and then that determines our reading and writing, like knowledge base. And then we need to see, can they listen and can they speak? Are those skills just as high as their writing and their reading? And if so, then they're in the right level. If not, we need to bump them down because they're listening and speaking a lower skill than those other two. Registration day focuses on new students. We've been talking about this, but it is huge when you can just have the amount of time necessary to make that student feel welcome. It makes a world of a difference. So once most returning students are pre-registered, so you already got your count and now you're just filling in the gaps with these new students, registration day becomes calmer and more welcoming for these new students. You can focus on helping newcomers fill out forms so you have more patience with them, giving placement tests or oral interviews, and pairing them up with a bilingual helper if needed. Now, you can do this at pre-registration. That is not a problem, but just know that you may have more volunteers on your registration day, and they're more dedicated to these new people. This shift helps first-time students feel cared for rather than rushed and gives your team time to make sure every student starts at the right level. And so that's pretty self-explanatory, but it is a huge difference when you can have the time to spend with each student and make sure that they're in the right place versus just rushing them through and be like, what level are you in? Like, blah, blah. Then they feel attacked, right? But this way, it's an easygoing time. And then also if you end and tell them, hey, go get some coffee, and at 7 o'clock, we're going to have like a small little mini class where you get to meet your teacher. That becomes an event for that day, and then they'll feel more confident with the materials that you're going to be covering the following week at a regular class. And so this is what could happen on that second hour. Typically is going to be a time to go over certain materials or certain requirements that the students need to know about before they start their classes. So there's no like, oh, I didn't know that there was writings. I didn't know that there was homework. I didn't know that there was tests. I didn't know that I had to come of 8 of the 12 classes to, finish my class. So that way there's no surprises. And then your level intro students, you can have a classroom instructions vocabulary mini class so that at the end of the mini class, they have 8 words, 8 actions, 8 instructions that they can use or they know, and they can listen to their teacher and know how to do the actions in the class. For example, we have look, listen, point, repeat, read, write, open, close. If they can get those actions down, if they know what they mean, then they will be successful in their first class. And that will be exciting for them because then they know, okay, I can do this English class, even if it's full immersion. Assessment test matching students with the future curriculum. At our program, we use an assessment test and they line up with the future ESL curriculum. It is not their curriculum test. They do have one. We made our own. This means the skills and topics tested, like vocabulary, grammar, and reading comprehension, connect perfectly with what the students will see in class. And so our test is not perfect, but it has been a really great tool for us. And we basically modeled it after the future one, but we wanted to make sure that we're not taking any copyrighted material. And so we created our own. And we also added to the form, the test, the registration as well. And now we have it where a returning student can fill it out and say, like, I'm a returning student, and then skip the test. That way everybody gets registered on that Google sheet, but it's a Google form that they fill out and it looks professional and we get everybody's information updated and ready for the semester. If you're interested in this assessment test, please join school, and it's a free community. Ask me where you can get it. I'm also going to be posting it on school, and that way we can share all this information with you and you can get going and using it with your program. So in the end, this helps us place students more accurately, but we also need to talk to them at the end, and students who are new need to come in person. You can't do them over the phone. You can't do them through texting. You can't promise them a level until you actually talk to them face to face and you see where their listening and their speaking level is to make sure that it matches their reading and writing, or you drop them down a semester or a year. So if this is your first time thinking through what a pre-registration is or what it could be for your program, why not try it out? Just set up a date in December and say like, hey, pre-registration, come and see who shows up. And then that way you're good to go. You got some commitments before the first of the year. And you also have their number and you can message them and remind them around January and make sure that you have their up-to-date information. Offer a small benefit to encourage signups. We've done little business cards before where we said, volunteers, hand them out, put your name on there. And then we got to see where these cards went. And it was amazing. We had one volunteer that would just hand them out in YMCA. She was like, here you go, here you go, here you go. And then we had about 3 or 4 different people show up and they all had Rhoda on there. I was like, wow, Rhoda, you've been really promoting us. And she was laughing because she was just handing them out to people. But that way we know who picked up the card, right? Who promoted the card, and then that they got picked up. And it has a discount. It had a discount of like $5 off or something like that. And then that way there was like an incentive like, oh, this is a new class I would get to participate in. And I get a discount. Woohoo, you know? And that is a way that you can personally bring in these new students. Now, your registration day may become smoother or it could just be just as hectic, but at least you can prepare your teachers for who already has signed up. And also, it gives you an idea of what your program could potentially look like. Thanks for joining Language Check for Teachers podcast. If you like any of the templates for the registration forms, the assessment tests, Google form, or any companion future curriculum, let us know. We would love to share that with you. And then also level intro, lesson plans, especially the vocab parts. We do create those at languagetrack.com, or join school. This is a place where we come together as a community of ESL, ELL, teachers and admin that care about the English community, immigrants, and around the world who want to learn about English. Join us, and that way we get to share these goodies with you.